welcome to Spy School, the show that unlocks the best-kept secrets in espionage. From surveillance to seduction, this is all you need to know.
How to survive in the clandestine world inhabited by the best spies, and how to use their techniques to get on in your career and even your love life.
And I'm here to see that everything's done by the book. My name's David Shaler. I used to work for British intelligence. Coming up, our two rookies will be following in the footsteps of some of the world's most legendary lovers to see whether they can cut it as sexpionage agents. We go back to World War II to see how the Special Operations Executive were taught to evade searches, and renegade MI6 officer Richard Tomlinson will be here with his exclusive take on espionage in the Tomlinson tapes.
Everyone knows that seduction is one of the most useful methods of obtaining information from people. Karl Helfmann, who worked for the East German Stasi, had so many frustrated secretaries to satisfy that when he was finally captured by West German counterintelligence, the spy only muttered, "Thank God, now I am safe from all those women."
The KGB used Mosno girls. These were sex spies who were employed to seduce Western agents and then report back with any vital intelligence. We're going to find out if we can use this type of spycraft ourselves.
A good example for Lorne to follow is Mata Hari, the exotic dancer and cabaret act. She was famous for seducing many army generals during the First World War before being shot by the French as a German spy.
My challenge for this evening is to go onto this barge and perform a cabaret piece, after which I have to target somebody and arrange a date with them. I'm in my garb, influenced by the legend Mata Hari herself. Difficult to imagine that little old Lorna is underneath all of this, but it is me. I'm a bit petrified as well, but here goes. Somebody their chance to be who loved me in a manner true. Bear with me. Okay, well that was undoubtedly one of the best performances of my life. I've now got to go downstairs and mingle with the punters. Hopefully they're completely smitten by my performance, and I have to try and arrange to go on a date with somebody.
Mata Hari always made the first move in her spy seductions.
Right, can I sit here? Is that all right? Are you enjoying the show so far?
God, you don't know it's a lot.
Yeah, within reason. It's all right.
Did you like my performance?
Give us a laugh.
I had the big...
It's time for the second half of the show. God, do we have some...
No. I thought it was quite extraordinary.
Mr. Keyboard, can you just give me a
Thank
quick...
you.
Have you played in this venue before?
No, I've never been to this barge before, actually. This is such a crap ride, isn't it? Do you come here often?
No, this is my first time.
And what brings you down?
I'm just here with a friend who keeps going out to make
There's my table next to the stairs ready.
phone calls.
Lorna has successfully engaged in targeting conversation, but she's now got to find out if he might have access to any useful information. She wisely decides to continue the seduction outside.
So what do you do for a living, my friend? What are you up to in your life?
Well, I'm just staying down in London. I live in Cambridge. I teach at the university.
Oh, right, what do you teach?
Politics.
Interesting.
So when are you next performing? Are you going to do another number here? Or?
No, not here. This is my first night here. I'm doing some more gigs next week if you fancy coming along.
Is this Saturday?
Yeah.
And what time are you on stage?
Well, that depends, because you arrive and they give you a running order. So,
Right.
but I can sit you down because I've got they will reserve the people a table, so I can sit you down. I'll buy you dinner because you bought me a drink. I'll buy you dinner. Isn't that nice?
Very nice.
I'll buy you dinner and then you can watch me sing. And then when I come off stage, you can tell me how wonderful I am.
Well, I've choked on my lamb.
If you're up for it.
Yeah,
next
no,
Saturday,
absolutely. Absolutely. I
Would
don't.
you want to give me your number?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I can
Well,
arrange a time.
you can punch it in. Have you got a mobile or anything? Or I could
no,
write
not
it
on me.
down on a
Write it down on a
bar.
piece of
Paper.
Okay, fab.
Okay.
Yeah.
The target hurries off to get his phone number. Lorna has pulled off a successful honey trap.
Basically, I think I've just pulled. I have a date with a politics teacher from Cambridge a week on Saturday. I've just used the excuse of having to change my shoes to come and have this quick chat with you. He seems like a really nice guy. Now I feel guilty because I told him I was going to buy him dinner. But I think a politics teacher, that could be handy. Well, I guess we'll see. But I think that's a successful mission.
Martial arts are one of the most important survival techniques taught to spies. Time now for Spy Hard, our lesson in the most lethal methods of self-defense. Here's how to defend yourself against a knifed attacker.
My name is Gavin Mulholland. I've been involved in the martial arts for 34 years, and I hold black belts in 4 different combat systems. Okay, what we're going to do here is a classic reversal technique, using an opponent's blade against them to neutralise the attack and the attacker. All special operatives from whichever service need to be trained against attacks using guns and knives. My main style is Goju-Ryu Karate. A lot of bodyguards and close protection officers use Goju techniques because they're close in work. While someone's too far away, you have nothing to deal with. When they come in, Goju has a system to take people down effectively, cleanly, disarm, strip and away. All these techniques are extremely dangerous. Don't try any of this at home.
Later in the show, Julian takes on Casanova, learn how to protect your PC from hackers, and learn the method of counter-surveillance that Anthony Blunt used when working as a double agent.
Now on Spy School, Richard Tomlinson, the ex-MI6 agent who smuggled nuclear secrets out of Moscow and ran undercover operations in Sarajevo, only to be sacked by British intelligence.
They thought that they could fire me, and they thought that getting me a job in the city would absolve them of any responsibility to follow basic employment law. And they kept on saying to me, well, what's the point in taking us to employment trial? We'll get you a job in the city. And they must have said that to me a dozen times, and I must have said to them a dozen times, that doesn't absolve you of the right to give me an employment tribunal, and I don't want a job in the city, thank you very much. What was even worse than that was that MI6, when they realised that I wasn't going to go quietly and that I was going to put up a fight, they set out to blacken my name, ruin my reputation, basically with their friendly contacts that they have in the press. They went around to government ministers telling them that I was all sorts of unpleasant things about me, trying to justify to ministers and to the press and to the public why they'd sacked me. They just thought they could get away with it, and I wanted to know why I'd been fired. I still do. Still haven't been told.
Raven. A raven is a man employed to seduce women and then gather information. John Simmons was one of the most well-known cases. He was a Scotland Yard detective who seduced women in Western embassies in order to obtain secrets for the KGB.
Now to the moment of truth for Julian in his sexpionage mission. Can he cut the mustard is the legendary Italian lover Casanova, who famously seduced thousands of women, not least a nun.
Casanova wrote 12 volumes of his memoirs, and in them he gave numerous tips on how to seduce a woman. And I'm going to try number 1, give the woman a gift. Flowers, last batch of the night, £2.60, last batch of the night.
Sorry.
Going? No? I'll tell you what, I've had enough. Do you want them?
No, really.
There aren't many British Romeo spies. It's quite obvious why.
£2.60? I'll tell you what, you're so pretty, you can have them. Oh, flowers, last batch of the day, £2.60.
With all the charm of Blofeld, Julian consistently fails to demonstrate any secret agent panache.
That's what I think of Casanova. I've tried giving people a gift. It blatantly hasn't worked. They just think I'm a weirdo oddball hanging around outside a tube on a Monday night, which in a strange kind of way I am.
Julian's seduction technique of passing himself off as a second-rate flower salesman would have Casanova turning in his grave. The Italian lover bedded over 10,000 women in his life. Julian clearly has a long way to go.
Sorry, you lost.
Sorry?
You lost.
It is good to take an interest in your target. Compliments are also effective, especially if you can be sincere.
I like your hair. That's mental. Where are you from?
He's now going to try another Casanova technique, seek out a woman's opinion.
I'm just new around here. Do you know the pen at all?
Yeah.
Is it any good?
That's all right, yeah.
Yeah? Have you eaten in there? Have you eaten in there? Have you used their food?
No, I've never eaten in there.
No? I'm doing a...
Seems to be good.
I'm doing a write-up for the new local magazine.
Oh, okay.
And so I just wondered what you know about the local pub. But you've never eaten in the Pen?
No.
Do you want to try? Because I've got an invite for 2 to go and eat, and I was just going to go on my own. I was just getting public opinion. You want to go have some food?
Yeah, why not?
Julian finally enjoys some modest success.
Okay, so we tried Casanova's tips. Not so great. To be honest, in the modern day and age, I think you're much better off winging it, trying to follow your own tips and make your own ways of seducing a woman to get her to give you their information.
Coming up in part 2, we look at how to protect your computer privacy in Need to Know. And delving into the assassination files, we find out what became of Alexander the Great when faced with a bevy of beautiful Indian babes.
Plenty more espionage still to come on Spy School. Shayla reveals how to make your computer work for you, not for the enemy, and Lorna goes to meet an expert on Mata Hari.
Time now to look at the syllabus for the Special Operations Executive. They were a group of British agents who were trained to operate covertly during World War II. Here we look at concealment, reconstructed from recently declassified files. All SOE agents were trained in measures to avoid suspicion should they meet the enemy in the field and find themselves subject to an unexpected search. Agents were warned to dispose of any unauthorized firearm and hide any secret documents.
Halt! Papers!
A watertight cover story would also have been prepared.
What are you doing here?
We're just going to my fiance's house for dinner.
Let's search your bag. What is this?
That's a compass.
He's a surveyor.
I work at the land registry in town. It's just my job.
Oh, yeah. Everything is in order. You may go.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You may.
The agent would always leave any discarded items until much later before returning to retrieve them.
We're talking about computers and hacking. Remember, this is strictly Need to Know. Information is power. In this day and age, it's much easier to hack someone's hard drive than it is to launch a physical surveillance operation against them. Every time you go online, your computer can be infiltrated either overtly or covertly. A lot of people don't know that the world's most popular operating system has a backdoor built in. Any knowledgeable person can access information on your hard drive and take it away without you ever knowing. We therefore need to look at encryption systems which can prevent this from happening. PGP is a public key encryption system used to protect emails and data files. It can also protect your entire hard drive. Its inventor, Phil Zimmermann, says that it would take all the computers in the world 1 million years to crack PGP. Since he developed the system, he has been harassed by security and intelligence services. Any commercial key has been produced in conjunction with the government. It is therefore not secure because the security and intelligence services have access to a backdoor key. Version 5 of PGP is no longer readily available, but if you can get access to it, use it because there's no backdoor key. If you want to get the latest version of PGP, go to its website at pgpi.com. The most obvious way to draw attention to yourself is to use encryption. The security and intelligence services are always looking out for this. Ironically, the people responsible for September the 11th in the US did not use encryption, and this is how they escaped detection. Instead, they used JPEGs and other files like this to hide messages.
Swallow. A swallow is a woman, often a prostitute, recruited to seduce and compromise men who have access to valuable information. They are thoroughly trained for the job so that they have no shame when they are called on to work for their country.
Time now on Spy School for the assassination files. Alexander the Great was one of the most successful generals of all time, conquering most of the known world in the 4th century BC. This was reason enough for the ancient Hindus to kill him with a sex squad of deadly sirens. The rulers of ancient India used the most ingenious methods to carry out assassination. Harems of beautiful but quite lethal women. They realised the possibility of exploiting human weakness for sex and employed Vishakanyas, or poisoned damsels, to seduce and infect their victims. There were 3 kinds of Vishakanya. Firstly, a baby girl would be spoon-fed poison from birth, very gradually, until she herself was immune, but by adulthood had become so venomous that a mere kiss would prove fatal to anyone she came into contact with. Secondly, a beautiful vixen would be requested to seduce an enemy and then feed him with contaminated food and drink. And in the third case, a woman already infected with disease such as syphilis or typhoid would be employed to pass the disease onto the unfortunate victim. One of the most famous cases of a Vishakanya death is that of Alexander the Great. Despite being regarded as one of the greatest generals in history, the healthy and robust warrior died mysteriously, aged only 33. Some say that when Alexander invaded India, the defeated king Chandragupta ordered Vishakanyas to be sent to Babylon. Alexander hosted several banquets there and drank heavily at them. One story claims one poisoned woman attended such a banquet and forced herself upon Alexander, feeding him poisoned wine. Immediately after drinking it, he felt a stabbing pain in his liver. When he tried to throw the wine back up, Alexander was dealt a further lethal blow, a contaminated feather which ensured that the poison would reach his bloodstream. Alexander suffered sweats, exhaustion, high fever and severe abdominal pain until he died in agony. His empire fell with him.
Earlier in the show, I seduced someone in the style of Mata Hari. Now I get the chance to find out more about the legendary spy and lover by talking to Richard Skinner, author of the book The Red Dancer. Can you tell me a little bit about Mata Hari and what she was famous for doing?
Well, she was born in Holland and she was famous for becoming a sort of an erotic dancer, exotic dancer in Paris. And she made a debut there in 1905. And she was alleged to have been recruited by the Germans to spy for them leading up to the outbreak of the First World War and during the war as well.
So she was headhunted, allegedly?
Yes, she was. She was recruited in Berlin by the chief of police who visited her backstage after one of her performances.
I want to know how famous she actually was. I mean, if you put her in a modern context, would she be, I don't know, would she be like somebody like Jordan?
Yeah, someone like, but still kind of quite an A-list celeb for a while. Very very famous. I mean, she was known in right across Europe. You know, her name was in the papers all the time. She toured a lot around Europe. She was a star.
Was it quite a regular occurrence then for exotic dancers to be recruited as spies for the Secret Service?
Yeah, she was ideal for them because she already had access to all sorts of quite high-ranking military personnel, diplomats, you know, politicians, that kind of thing. So they didn't really have to do much for her, set her up at all, to get access to these people. So she was, you know, a gift for them, really.
Do you think that's why she changed sides so often? Because as a spy, she didn't seem to have much loyalty.
No, I think she, you know, went to the highest bidder, basically. I mean, she was recruited by the Germans, allegedly, originally. But she was sort of forced into working for the 2e Bureau in Paris because she was compromised and, you know, they knew who she was, they knew what work she'd been doing, and she had no choice, really, but to become a double agent.
Yeah. Now, once again, there are lots of mixed stories about what happened at her execution. Some people say that she actually blew a kiss to the firing squad, and there was another story that she threw open her coat, apparently, and wasn't wearing any clothes underneath. What do you think actually happened?
She did have a nun and her agent standing to one side. She apparently did say goodbye to them individually, but that's, you know, that's all she's recorded as saying or doing.
Well, thanks for coming to talk to me. It's been really interesting. Thanks a lot. Spying is essentially intelligence gathering and dissemination. One of the most important skills a spy must have is liaising with other agents in order to pass information over.
But they must be able to make a successful contact while under surveillance.
Using counter-surveillance to detect a tail is known in the trade as dry cleaning. The following exercise is based on former MI5 officer Anthony Blunt's arrangements to meet his KGB handler. In order to ensure security, they dry cleaned each other.
Here we are today in Bloomsbury. We're going to look at a technique called dry cleaning, which is basically avoiding hostile surveillance when you meet an agent. So one of you is going to be an agent runner and one of you is going to be the actual agent. Okay, this is a good place to have the meeting. Julian's going to be the agent runner, Lorna's going to be the agent in this. So you're going to come down here and you're going to make eye contact with Lorna. Right. But what you're not going to do is acknowledge her publicly. And what we need to have is some kind of agreed signal to indicate to her that you've actually seen her.
Right.
And obviously that you're not being followed, that you haven't grown a tail, to use the jargon in this case.
Okay.
So what sort of pre-arranged signal are you going to use?
I'd like a cigarette, do something with a scarf.
Yeah, the scarf's probably good. When you do get up and follow Lorna, obviously you're looking for hostile mobile surveillance, either on foot or even in cars. So when you got up across the road, you can look either way without looking suspicious, because you're like looking for traffic, basically. So what you're going to do now is follow Lorna at a safe distance, making sure that nobody else is following her. This counter-surveillance technique has been adopted by Israel's Mossad, Germany's BND, Russia's SBR, and the American CIA. It is also used by resistance movements and urban guerrilla groups. Now what we're going to do, obviously, is to now complete the exercise. We've dry cleaned Lorna, so you know that she's not being followed. Now Lorna has to do the same thing for you. And the secret here is obviously not to use the same techniques as you used the first time, because that will look very obvious. You've got to find some more natural techniques that won't arouse suspicion. Well, we have a nice sort of phone box here. That's always provides natural cover. I mean, somebody can walk into a phone box and not arouse suspicion. And then obviously we've got to try and think of a signal that Lorna can give as she passes the phone box.
So what's your signal going to be?
Well, maybe I should, I don't know, do something like put chewing gum in my mouth.
Right, as you pass the phone box?
Yeah, I'll just stop and get some out, put it in my mouth, and that's the signal.
Okay.
I thought that worked very well. I mean, I thought both signals were very subtle. I thought the use of the window, so you didn't actually have to make eye contact again, was very useful as well. That's a technique beloved of the KGB. Obviously, in real circumstances, when you're being followed around by surveillance teams, there'll be many, many people around you. But they have a problem as well, of course, because they don't want to be spotted, because if they're spotted, you won't make the meeting, and therefore they may lose valuable intelligence. And as a result of that, sometimes they have to stand off, or in the terms of the trade, not press surveillance. So they will lose eyeball, i.e. sight of you.